Hello and welcome to my second not so live but pre-recorded video for the Great Australian Craft Show. My internet, grrr. This one probably works out better not to be live as I can use my heat tool a little bit more, and before I put it up I will go take the noise of the heat tool out of the video because I can edit that out. On a live I can't do that, so yeah, it probably works out a little better to do it this way. Trying to get my hands on a quiet heat tool. So today we're going to be playing with my new foam stamps. I'm in love with this one. This one's really cool. So this one is our vine leaf with dots. We're going to play with our netting stamp. All our stamps come in large and small sizes. So this is a large size, this is a small size. This is the small size of this, and then we've got a larger size again. Because when I made this, I thought, oh, that's a great size, but I want it bigger. So I got to make it bigger. So today we're going to attempt a scrapbook page. No, we're going to make a scrapbook page. Let's be positive. I'm deciding whether I want my sleeves up or down. I need them up because I can craft, but I want them down because I'm gold. Turn my heater off. So today we're going to play with some embossing powders, with some either Lindy Stamp Gang pigment powders or magical powders, or these ones are from Colour Blast. I've just put them into a different container. These Lindy's ones will go into... I could find the little ones when I went shopping, and I'll show you how I use those containers later. I don't like these containers because when you unscrew them, it's just an open pot, and me and open pots don't work. You can also get the Lindy's in shakers. So all these are from Hillbilly Scrappin'. My good friend Jen has huge amounts of mixed media. Every time I go up there, I end up spending all my profits from my business at her business. I'm sure she doesn't mind. So if you want any of these Lindy colour sprays, they are interchangeable. So it doesn't matter if you get Colour Blast ones, pigment powders, I think these are called shimmer powders, the Colour Blast ones, or the Lindy Stamp Gang ones, or there's a few other brands available. They all do basically the same thing. It's like if you go to, I use this analogy quite a lot in art journaling and scrapbooking. It's like going to Coles, going to Safeway, and going to IGA, buying tomato sauce. You can get Coles tomato sauce, you can get Woolworths tomato sauce, you can get IGA tomato brand sauce. All the same thing, slightly different taste, slightly different consistency. So that's basically what these are. Different brands, same sort of product concept, and you can mix and match them all together. So if you buy a couple of these ones and a couple of these ones, a couple of other brands in different colours because you like their colour range, they will all work interchangeably, which is lots of fun. Okay. I had this in my mind all set up. Okay, we'll do this bit first. When I was doing the live, and now I've got to go into video mode. So we're going to play with our foam stamp first, and we're going to make some embellishments for our page. So these foam stamps we're going to use in two ways. We're going to use in our background, we're going to use as embellishments. So the thing I like about this foam stamp is you can actually stamp them straight. And we're going to do one of those now. We're going to do it on music paper. So you can stamp on any sort of paper you like. In my art journal, I like to use a lot of recycled things. So I'll use pages from book text. I'll use music notes. I'll use basically anything I can get my hands on. So I'm going to stamp on some music note paper today. And there's no reason why I can't use these in my scrapbook page as well. So we're going to use a VersaFine ink pad for all the embossing. For two of the colours, it doesn't matter what colour you use because we're going to put a colour over the top. But I just grabbed out my VersaFine ink pad. So just going to stamp it over the stamp it on top of the stamp. I like taking my ink pad to my stamp as opposed to taking my stamp to my ink pad for these. So just give it a good ink up. These foam stamps you can mount on an acrylic block with a bit of double-sided tape at the back if you want to, or you can leave them just freehand stamping. This technique you do need to leave them freehand stamping. So what I'm going to do is actually curl it up and stick it on our page. So you can also, I'm just holding it for about 5 seconds. I like to, with the foam stamps, hold it for about 5 seconds, whether I'm using ink, paint or whatever, so it has time to grab from the foam into the paper. Now, this embossing ink pad is juicy and wet, and you need to sprinkle your embossing powder, excuse the noise, on when the ink is still wet. So I'm just going to take my stamp off. Make sure when you take your stamp off you don't move it on the paper. I've got a spoon somewhere. So I store a lot of my embossing, frequently used ones, in these sort of Chinese containers, plastic containers, so I can pick it up and just drop it on my page, and then there's no waste. I've got to find where I stamp my image. That helps. It's up this end, Melinda. So just dropping this over, and as you can see, all of it is dropping back, and I did move it when I picked it up, and I told you not to. So in my videos and in my classes in real life, you do as you're told, you don't do what I do. But we can easily fix that up. Now, as you can see, I've got a double head on my vine, which is not a big deal, but if you've got any embossing powder where you don't want it, there's a little bit over here, we're going to cut these out anyway, so it doesn't matter if we've got it around. So a dry paintbrush, always a dry paintbrush, we can just knock off any powder. I'm just giving my page a flick. So for example, if I didn't like this double head up here, it's actually wrong, this one's wrong as well, so I can just flick the powder off back into the embossing big jar. So this particular embossing powder is embossing powder and fine glitter mixed together. So it's like a glittery embossing powder. It's quite old, so I don't even know what brand it is. Jen from Hillbilly Scrapping has a huge range of embossing powders. Again, it really doesn't matter what brand you buy. Some have a gold finish, some have a glitter finish. It just depends. So I'm just going to bring my heat tool in if you've never heat embossed before. This does get quite noisy, but I will go and edit out all the noisy bits. So it'll go silent for a little bit. So what we want to do is we want to, away from our piece, we actually want to heat up our tool for about 30 seconds. You want to use a heat tool as opposed to a hairdryer. What a hairdryer will do is puffed all your powder across the room, and you don't want that. So you want a heat tool that has heat but not blowing air like a hairdryer blows air with heat embossing. So I'm just going to heat it up. I'm going to go silent for just a minute. Sorry, I'm just getting quite close to see if all the crystals are done. Okay, because this one is a mix of embossing powder and fine glitter, it doesn't go shiny like some other embossing powders. So this is a gold I did last night. So this is stamping the leaves straight, or this one's sort of straight. So this one sort of dries a bit more matte. So what I want for my project is I actually want some leaves facing the other direction. That's why I love this leaf stamp, because you can do so many things with it. Often I have stamps that I buy and I go, oh, I wish that flourish, or I wish that foliage was going the other direction, so I have a bit more flexibility with what I want to do. So I sort of designed this one intentionally with a skinny middle so it would bend, so I could do some really cool stuff with it. So this time I'm going to grab it from top to tail and bend it back to the opposite direction, and you can bend it as hard as you want. It will sort of stop bending when the leaves touch each other. So we're just going to wait about 5 seconds, and then we're going to dump some embossing powder on it. Oh, I shouldn't put my embossing powder up there. I'll probably flick it across my table. So now you'll see, just giving the paper, as I sprinkle it on and tip it off, I give my paper a bit of a tap, and I can see where I want to add. Hello, Alexis, I'm filming a video, because my internet would not work again. So just giving that a good tap. You can put it over and tap it from the back.
Mom?
Yes, Alexis?
The thing is bad. It just said frames being dropped.
I know. I don't know why my computer says frame being dropped, but when I record, but it seems to still work. So we're just going to heat up this one, because we're going to use these later. Alexis is out to raid the fridge. It's lunchtime. So again, we're going to heat up our heat tool, and if you notice last time I did it, I didn't do this all over it. I didn't move my heat tool much. I started in one spot, and you'll start to see the crystals go from crystals to like a solid blob. Don't touch the blob because it's hot, because you burn your finger. And then move your heat tool as you'll see the crystal sort of above where your heat tool is start to turn and heat. Then you move your heat tool. You don't want to do this because it's not getting each particular spot hot enough. What's up, sweetie? Alexis is up.
When you're done, can you make 2-minute noodles?
When I'm done, I can make 2-minute noodles. Yes, give me that.
So they taste better when you make them.
Oh, they taste better when I make 2-minute noodles.
It's like making the bowl one and making the cup one.
Okay.
The bowl one tastes better.
I'll make 2-minute noodles when I'm finished filming my video. Might be about half an hour, 45 minutes, sweet pea.
Okay.
If you get desperate, you can always make them yourself. Advantages of working from home during COVID-19. No, I'll always make time for my daughter. If I was a good mother, I'd pause the video, go make the 2-minute noodles and come back. I'm not going to. I'm going to get my video done first. As I said, if she's desperate, she can make them. She does know how to make them herself. So noisy again, so the video is going to go quiet for a minute when I take out the... So as you can see, when I'm finished up here, I move slowly back just to catch any crystals that I didn't do. And I'm liking how that is turning out. It's sort of more darker down here and lighter up here. That's okay with me. It's probably the amount of ink I put on the flourish. So that's going to be right. That's going to be right. Okay, so I have pre-cut for the live. I did pre-cut and stamp a lot of these because I'm going to use a lot of them in my layout. Probably going to use about 20 of them. I'll give you a hint of what I'm doing. So now that we've done that, we need to prepare our background. You can also stamp them. I've stamped some on text paper as well. Okay, now let's get to working on our background. So I did prepare my background to some extent before the live, so I could cut out the amount of heat tool operating I was doing. So I've got a piece of textured black cardstock, which will be my base card. So get that out of here before I put goop all over that. So this is Kaisercraft flat cardstock, and Jen stocks these as well. She sells them in packs of 20, which is awesome value because I go through it like it's butter. So I've prepped my page to start with. Because we're using these Lindy Stamp Gang Magicals and we're going to activate them with water because they're a water activation product. You can activate them with a whole lot of other things. We're going to use something else in a minute as well. So I just noticed I didn't put my lid on my embossing powder and it's sitting up on something, so I just wanted to close that up. So I have prepped my page with clear gesso. Now gesso comes in 3 main ways. It comes in white, clear and black. Also comes in a variety of colours if you want, but you can mix white and the colours to get colours. So basically what the clear does is it seals your page. So when these magicals are on there, they're going to move and slide around a bit more than just if we put them on, and I'll show you on a plain piece of paper I haven't gessoed, what they do. They sort of sink in and they don't move as much. So this one I want them to move and drip and do all sorts of fun stuff. So I love the clear gesso. I use this a lot in my art journal. And Jen sells this as well. And Jen sells the clear and the black gesso as well. Okay, so let's pull in, this is a piece of plain cardstock. So let's do our magicals on that first, and I'll show you what they do, and then I will show you what they do on the gessoed surface. So I'll give you a different look. So now I've got, I'm trying to think of what colours I want to use. So I've got that in the background. We're going to go Peacock, which is a Colour Blast shimmer. I've taken the little labels off their little pots. The Colour Blast come in pots like this, and personally I don't like them just because I would end up tipping it everywhere. Let's put a bit of yellow into it, which is in the Lindy Stamp Gang. Some of them come in shakers, which is fantastic. Some of them come in their little pots. And we want to be careful we don't make mud. So we don't want to add colours. So I don't want to particularly add what makes mud? Red and green. Okay, pink and green will make mud. So these colours will mix together when they're wet. So we don't want to put colours. Think back to that colour wheel you learned about in primary school. We don't want to add colours that make mud, like red and green make brown. I think it's purple and yellow. Don't quote me on that. Or is it purple and orange? One of the two. So I'm going to go a bit of yellow, a bit of green, and I'm going to go a bit of blue. I'm going to go a bit of Duke. This blue in Lindy Stamp Gang is very dark, and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to go with these three. So what I've done in these containers, the reason I chose these containers, and I got these just from a cheapie shop, and I went back to get some more, and I only could find the small ones, which is fine. I don't probably need the big ones because, as you can see, it's only about a third full. So the thing I like about these containers is they have this soft lid. So I've put a push pin or a drawing pin in and made a few holes so I can shake it onto my page. This powder goes a huge way and you don't need much of it at all. Now, you're probably not going to see me shaking it on here, but I'll see what we can do. So I just want to tip it up, and I usually tap, you can probably, I can't see if you can see that. But trust me, there's little blobs of, little dust bits of colour. You can probably see that's a bit hard. I'm just keeping these in here because my camera does not like focusing on a white surface. Do I have a drink bottle near me? Yes, I do. I've got a frog in my throat. That's what I get for demonstrating 4 days in a row, twice a day. Okay, so that's a bit of the green. So the shakers come with obviously a big out, if you want to pour a big bit out, I'll get a big bit out. They also come with a little bit. So I'm just going to hold it and basically not tip it. It's sort of on an angle, and I'm just going to tap it with my finger. And I can see a couple of grains coming out. Just trying to put that lid back on the shaker. The shakers are better than these little tubs, but I still will probably put some of this in here and label it what colour it is, because I can just get a few drops out. So we're just going to grab water in a normal squirt bottle, and we're going to activate it. Now, this one is on the non-gessoed surface. So as you can see, it activates. And excuse any noises you can hear in the background. I've got my daughter's bunnies in the back corner of where I film, and every time I start to talk, they decide it's time to play. So as you can see, the little crystals of powder have activated, and even though I had hardly any powder on that, the blue has just taken over the yellow. So what we can do is actually, what I sometimes tend to do is grab a dry paintbrush, stick it in my pot and flick it on, and then you only pick up a few granules. So that's a good trick I learnt off Hillbilly, which was good. Oh, sorry, Jenny from Hillbilly Scrappin'. I have a couple of Jenny friends, so Alexis and I refer to them in the house as, one is Hillbilly, which is her business name, and one as another name. So Alexis knows which ones they are. So we can again add some more water. So you're wanting to activate the little powders. So you can pick this up and tip it. I didn't want to tip it over that yellow. And then we're going to dry that off. So bear with me a moment. Got that big blob in the middle. I can pick that up and shaking around. As you can see, the paper's getting really wet. So as you can see, the paper sort of gets a bit fragile and wet without the gesso. Some of these powders are shimmer powders. I'm trying to see which ones. doesn't actually, oh, this one says gold. This one says California. This is California Poppy Gold. So it has a bit of shimmer to it. And I believe these Colour Blast ones have shimmer in them as well. So it's slightly bit metallic. But as you can see, your paper gets fairly fragile and can tear really easily when you don't have the gesso on it. So I'll pop that aside and let's bring in our gessoed page. What I did to our gessoed page, apart from getting good blue fingerprints on it, is I'm not sure whether you'll be able to see. I'm going to do one in a minute. You can see up here, you can see some netting. What I did was stamped in 4 spots with the netting and clear embossing powder before the live because I didn't want to do it 4 times and deafen you. So I'm going to do it once here. So I've stamped here, here and here with our foam stamp. So I'll do the last one with you. So the last one we're going to stamp is sort of up here. Basically, I've sort of done them round in a circle. And this will give a bit of interest and this will resist. Because this is clear embossing powder, this will act as a resist when we go and add our powders over the top. So you can't really see it at the moment. It's hard to see white on white. So we're just going to ink up our stamp like we're inking up it before. And we're going to stamp over the top of the white gesso. So I'm just going to go there. So again, just going to press it down for about 5 seconds and I'll bring in my white embossing powder. So just giving it a good old press down because you want in good contact with that ink, and I can see that there. So I've got white embossing powder in a Chinese container as well. I don't know why I call them a Chinese container because that's probably what Chinese takeout comes in. Just going to clean off my spoon because I've got green glitter on my last one. So I put my most commonly used embossing powders in these containers, and they don't have to be these plastic ones. They could be Tupperware containers. They don't have to be this big. It's just this is a good size when I'm doing cards. And these embossing powders for when I had my retail shop many moons ago, and they're still going strong. So just going in and flicking off any powders, and I'm sorry if my head's in the way, any powders I don't want, and you can sort of see, you can see the shine there, or you can sort of see that. So let's heat that up. Just put my lid, always put your lid on back on your embossing powder, or put your embossing powder back in its jar before you bring your heat tool in. Because if you get near your jar or get near the open thing, you'll melt your entire thing of embossing powder. So I'll go silent for a minute while I do this. So that was nice and quick. So now I've got, I'm not sure whether you're going to be able to see, get my water bottle out of the way. So I've got one stamped here, one stamped here, one stamped here, almost in a circle. Just wanting to add some texture. A lot of it will be covered up, but I don't know where my last elements are going to go. So the other thing we're going to do is we're going to bring in the same design in a stencil, and we're going to mix up some Colour Blast or powders. I forgot the texture paste. Hang on, I'm just going to my shelf to get it. Here we go. So what you can also do with these powders is, yes, we've water activated them. We're going to do that on our background in a minute. Actually, we're going to do that now before we put the texture paste on. Sorry, changed my mind. I'm allowed to do that. I'm a girl. I'm allowed to change my mind. Let's add some colour to this, and then we'll add our stenciling over the top. So we go yellow. And I apologise about the noise. Those bunnies are being very noisy. Okay, so again, our paper has crinkled a little with our gesso on it, but that's okay. I'm just going to hold it down. So basically, I'm going to have a wreath. I'm going to give away my secret. A wreath of those leafy things. So what I'm wanting to do is get colour sort of in the middle, but that's where my photo is going to go. So I'm sort of wanting to get it around the edge, if that makes sense. So I'm going to aim my powders on the outside of that ring of, and I'm sorry, it's really hard to see white on white. Aiming my powders for the outside of the wreath, just to give it a bit of a look. I'm going to do this one with the paintbrush because I can't see what I'm doing. I have low vision. For anyone that doesn't know me or hasn't done classes with me, I have low vision, I wear glasses, whoops, and I get big spots of yellow dust everywhere. And sometimes I have trouble seeing distant stuff. Vic roads won't even let me drive. That'll give you an indication of how bad my eyesight is. So I do apologise if my head gets in the way. So I am just going to, I've probably got far too much yellow on here. That's all right. We'll just add more blue if that's the case. We'll just make it a bit more greeny. A bit more yellow over here. So don't particularly want it in the middle, but our photo is going to cover that up. So thinking a 5x7 photo in the middle. I don't actually have a photo to add to this page today, but it's very hard for me to make a scrapbook page without a photo. I usually have to start with a photo and pick colours and that from it, but I'm learning to do it the other way. What am I looking for? Water. Let's see some magic happen. Just trying to keep these things in here because then my camera, I'll put the Inkcat in there, then my camera doesn't have a hissy fit with the white. Okay, so now we're going to hit it with some water. The more water you add, the more powders get activated. And as you can see, you're seeing a bit of this resisting here. So I'm going to, I've probably got far too much water now. What I want to do is move some of the water around. So I need a paintbrush. Bear with me, guys. I'm just going to pause. I can't see my paintbrushes. So I've just grabbed a paintbrush. So I just want to move some of this around. So when it's wet, you can move it around. So I'm trying not to mix the blue, and I've got far too much there. So let's get, if you've got far too much there like me, you can sop it up with a baby wipe or a piece of paper towel just to sop up that extra moisture. So what I'm trying to do is get the just spread it out a bit and get the colour over the resist. I'm going to wipe it off the resist in a minute. So it's obviously a messy background, so you're not going to get it perfect. Like, it's going to do what it does. You can pick it up and drip it. I'm going to drip it this way. Ooh, I like the drips. Ooh, I do like the drips. Okay. So as you can see, the powder, the paper's holding up a bit more, and it's moving a whole lot more. You don't have, where's that one I did before? With the ungessoed surface, it doesn't move as much, and you get patches of dark stuff because the pigment is soaking into the paper. So what I'm going to do is dry this off, and then I want to add a bit more yellow and bring a bit more yellow into it. So let's just pick this up again, and what I like to do is pick it up and sort of tap it like this, and you get really cool drips. And now I've got to put something there so it doesn't get, it doesn't matter if it gets on the back. Okay, going silent again. I'm going to dry this, and then I want to bring a bit more yellow back into it. Okay, that's got to about It's not 100% dry, but all the big puddles are out. And you saw me take the baby wipe, well, it's a dry baby wipe, or a piece of paper towel. And if you've got any big dark areas you don't like, you can just sop them up. Just going to sop up what's on the back. Now, I'm wanting to bring a bit more yellow into it. So I'm deciding whether I want, sorry if I'm crooked. My camera must be a bit crooked. I'll try to line it up to the screen. So I'm deciding whether I want to do it with the powders and the water again or the texture paste. I think I've decided the texture paste. So I said there's many different ways to activate these powders, and this is another way. So this is just a piece of Perspex I use as a palette for my gel plate. So I'm just going to use that today. So just grabbing some texture paste. This one's from Aldi. Oops. A couple of years ago, I just wanted to try it. It was cheap. It's fairly good. But Jen from Hillbilly has a huge range of texture paste. You can get it in white. You can get it in colours. You can get it in a huge range. So I'm going to guesstimate how much I want. Probably about that much. I can always make up more, but if you make up more, it's never the right tone or the right colour. So always make a little bit more than you think you need. I only want to put a few little sort of patches of yellow on here. So we're going to take our Lindy's powder, and because it's water activated, there's actually water, just tapping a bit out. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. Let's put that there so the computer doesn't have a hissy fit. So I'm just tapping a little bit out. Because these are water activated powders, you can actually mix them with gesso or embossing powder, texture paste, to make your texture paste coloured. So I'm just sort of smushing it in, letting the texture paste pick up all that colour. Now it is a bit light, so I want to add a bit more. You can always add a bit more, you can't take it away. Whoops, it's probably a bit too much. You can leave it streaky, or you can totally... Actually, I'm wanting that a bit darker. It's not going as dark as I want. What if I add a tiny little bit of orange? The yellow's just not, I have not mixed the yellow before. Okay, when I'm opening these tubs, what I tend to do is loosen the tub, tap it with your finger to make any loose powder fall down, because these have been thrown around in a postal box and God knows what before I got them. Take our little sealing cap off. Put that back in our cap, and I want to pick up a little bit with the paintbrush. As you can see, this is a wide jar. Ooh, that's a lot. This might make a very orange page. Might be toning this down again or starting again. So we just want to, yeah, it's very orange. Actually, I'm just trying to match it with the gold, because I'm using gold in my leaves, so I just want to make sure it's not, that's sort of where I want it yellow. Actually, it's not that bad. Let's go with it. Let's just go with it. It's not that orange now. I can always, if it is too orange, add some more texture paste to it, and it will tone it down. And if I put it on and I don't like it, I can stop the video and make another page, and you'll never know the difference, will you? Isn't that dreadful? I have an idea in my head for this page. I've just come off 2 back-to-back a retreat last weekend, a virtual retreat, and then this the weekend after. So I'd planned what products and things I was using. Like I knew I was going to use the water-activated powders and foam stamps and maybe a stencil. I just hadn't worked out what project I was actually making. And I thought I'd actually make projects as opposed to just showing you a little demonstration. So bear with me in my indecisiveness. Actually, the orange won't look too bad. So what I'm wanting to do with this is I'm going to pick up some of my texture paste I just made on the back of my spatula, because I like it on the back of my spatula as opposed to the front. And then I'm just wanting to scrape a little bit here and there, not wanting it to be perfect. And I'm going to, because I haven't decided which way's up yet, I just want to put bits and pieces everywhere. Actually, I'm liking that colour. I can always, actually what I might do is sprinkle some gold embossing powder into it and calm it down a bit with the colour. We'll see what it looks like in a second. So just doing random little bits. As you can see, my stencil is nice and green because I was using it with alcohol inks yesterday. The only one situation I clean my stencils 100% in is when I use texture paste, because it dries and will ruin your stencil, but alcohol ink on your stencil is okay. Just wanting to put a little bit more here. I'm sort of conscious that I'm going to have a big circle here, so a lot of this is going to get possibly hidden under the circle, but that's okay. And we might put a little bit here. And then while our texture paste is wet, trying to scrape up the last little bit of it, I'll wipe that off my acrylic mat as well. So you can either go wash your things that you're using with texture paste, or what I tend to do is also just with a wet baby wipe off the texture paste. I'll just wipe it off my mat. So this is a great way to be able to use texture paste in so many different colours. If you buy just white, a jar of white, and you buy some of these watercolour, I need a wetter baby wipe, that one's a bit dry, bear with me. You can buy a selection of these powders which you can use in so many different ways. I'm actually using the powders again this afternoon with a different product, a different way. Hopefully that one I can do live, we'll see. So just cleaning up my stencil, just getting all the texture paste off it, otherwise it will ruin it. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to bring in a piece of scrap paper to put under my page, because I'm going to tip a little bit of gold embossing powder into, sprinkle it in. While this is wet, the gold embossing powder will stick, and then it'll tone down the orange and also bring this gold colour in. So I'm going to actually grab the spoon and see if I can. I don't want to cover the entire thing, but I sort of want to sprinkle bits of it. And when this melts, it'll... So just putting a little bit on the spoon and tapping with my finger, so just little bits fly off. And then what I'm going to do is take my page and give it a tap on a piece of scrap paper. Check that I've got enough. Actually, I like that. Some of the orange is going to be showing through, some of it's not. So I've got this little bit here. I'm going to tip back into the jar. And then we're going to heat up the embossing powder. Now, usually when I do videos, I will turn off the video or pause the video when I dry things. But because it's embossing, I actually want you to see how it works. So that's why it's going to go silent for a little bit. But I'm liking the page so far. Might have to bring a bit of that orange in when I do. Oh, I just had an idea how I could bring that orange in. Doing this on the fly, it's fun. Okay, so just heating up my heat tool, and I will heat up all these. So just, ow, paper's hot, ow. So just having a look. Oh, I love how that's turned out. That's really cool. And I just worked out how I'm going to bring the orange into the foreground. So don't touch your paper when it's hot because it does heat up. When I stick this to my backing paper, I will use a fair bit of double-sided tape and it will all flatten out. So we can see this bit of resisting here. We can see our colours. We can see our stenciling. So let's get on and assemble our page. So I've got a stand-in photo. Use your imagination, girls. This is my 5x7 photo. Isn't she beautiful? I'm just deciding what bit I want up the top and what I want down the bottom. I probably want this bit or this bit up the top, actually. So this is sort of going to go here in the middle. And then this is what I prepared earlier. So this was what I was stamping out last night while thinking about what I was going to do on this page. Bear with me a moment. I've got stuff everywhere. Okay, so these were some of the shapes we stamped out, and we deliberately stamped some. What have I got? Blue. Okay. The baby wipe I have used to mop up the water I've put on this paper, and we have now blue on it. Doesn't matter. We're going to cut these out anyway. If it's got a bit of blue on it, that's fine. So what we can do now that these are curled up is I want to make a ring, and this is almost looking at an underwater scene, isn't it? And these could be, oh, seaweed. Oh, now my brain's going clunkety 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 clunk, and I've got to go grab a product. So this is great. I'm not doing it live because I can go grab the product I want to incorporate some orange into the top. So I'm going to make a circle. So now that we've got these stamps going both directions, we can start building our circle. And I sort of want to rotate the gold, but I don't want to have like gold, green, gold, green. I sort of want to, I don't know, make a bushy that's not a circle. What school did I go to? So sort of wanting to make a circle out of our pieces. So we might want to bring this one down a bit. So my idea was to have one corner of my photo hidden under and one corner of my photo out, like one side. So this will sort of come out and over here, and this side, the photo will be on top of the wreath. Does that make sense? Clear as mud. Okay, so now I've got, do I need more greenery? I need another layer. Let me pause the video and go grab the product that I am thinking that will look perfect on this. Okay, found what I was looking for. Just going to bring this black back in and have a look at it on our black background and what it's looking like. Now what I've grabbed is some of our, my arms are getting cold, our 400 GSM mixed media cardstock, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to intertwine those with my stamped images, but we're going to colour these first. So let me move that out of the way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to colour these. Where did my palette go? I'm going to just bring my palette in here. Okay, so I'm going to use some of the yellow and some of the orange. Let's cut this in half. Do I have scissors near me? Yes, I do. So I was fussy cutting before. Okay, let's chop these in half. So this is another product we sell in the store. What I found is for some projects that I wanted to make, chipboard's great, fantastic. Buy lots of chipboard. But sometimes I felt it's a bit bulky and I wanted to add another layer without adding bulk. So this is 400 GSM cardstock. So it's thicker than your normal cardstock and it takes mixed media fairly well. But just keep in mind, it is paper still. So it is a cardstock still. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a little bit of powder, not that side, a little bit of powder over here, and we're just going to activate it with water. And we're going to make like a little watercolour. We need a brush. Brush would be handy. So we're just going to mix it up. The more water you add, the more diluted it gets. So we're just going to, let's do this on a white bit of paper so you can see my grubby page. So I'm going to paint 3 of these in the yellow, and then I'm going to paint 3 of these in the orange, just so I can bring in some of that colour into the wreath, and I think that will just give it a bit more dimension. I'm having so much fun with this layout. So just sort of watercolouring. Doesn't matter if I don't get it perfect. I'm not looking for perfection. So these pigment powders, once you start experimenting with them, you'll think, oh, I can do this. Oh, I can do that. I can do so many things with it. I need a little bit more. Not the side that has the big hole, because I'll end up putting it everywhere. So tap a little bit out. Spray it with water. And pick it up. Each time you mix it up, it will be a different like shade or consistency. So if you have mixed it up and got to half the project like this, I'm just going to go sort of dab it over. I don't mind if I see bits of white. Doesn't bother me. So that is going to just be put off the side to dry. Then we're going to do this one with a bit of yellow and orange. We're going to do these two with, we've got yellow left, so let's use that up. These two with yellow. Again, I'm just picking up the watercolour. You could use, if you've got watercolour paints, you could use the same thing. And just sort of dabbing it on, not being too precious. Now I want to make these two ones orange, just to bring in a bit of that orange. Now just be very careful. I've wet that paintbrush, so I don't want to go and add that paintbrush to my pot. I don't want to introduce water into here. So this is a dry paintbrush, so I'm just going to pick up a small amount. Put my lid back on because I'm known for spilling these pots of glitter stuff everywhere. Pigment powders everywhere. So just give that a bit of a spray. And this will just give it a pop of orange. So we're just going to come in here and do this. What I find is I'm leaving these connected. They've got little connecting pieces, so when I pick it up out of the machine, it's easier to pick up one piece than 6 or 7 swirls. So I leave the interconnecting pieces till I'm done colouring, because it's just easier to colour, sort of hold it in one spot and I'm holding all the pieces, than cut them into individual pieces. And this will be a nice contrast from all the shininess on my stamps that I put, missed a bit. This will be a nice contrast. This is like flat colour as opposed to the shininess that's in the wreath already. So I'm just going to give these a quick buzz with the heat tool. The yellow is nearly dry. Heat tool, where did I put that? Oh, you should see my desk. It's absolutely a mess. Okay, they're dry, so I'll just put those over on my layout. I do give the back a bit of a dry as well. So this is already messy, so what I'm going to do is just pick up my extra watercolour on this page, and these little scraps of colours will go, they go into my someday box, I say. So someday I'll come in and punch something out of that or die cut it. Same with this little one demo. I don't throw anything out. I'm a bit of a bowerbird or something that doesn't throw anything out. So all those bits do get used eventually. So just bringing this layout back into here. Just going to keep those in the middle because my camera's just deciding to not be nice. Okay, so let's just snip these apart. So basically, I put the connecting pieces where they're fairly easy and flat to snip apart. I try not to put them on an overly complicated piece that you can snip. So there's one I missed a little bit. So I try to put them on the flat edges or a curved edge, not on, like I wouldn't put it here where it's too close to the swirl. So just cutting these off. You could do these with the craft. They're flying all over my room. You could do this with a craft knife, or I'm just using a small pair of scissors I use for fussy cutting. So there's those two. So any of our designs can be cut out of this 400 GSM cardstock, mixed media cardstock. I do have select designs on the website, and I'm going to cut some more for our next release, which will be at the start of July. But if you see a design on the website and say, hey, I'd like that in mixed media cardstock, shoot us an email and say, can I have this shape, this shape, this shape? Just send me a list in your white mixed media cardstock, and I can certainly do a special order for you. I don't have the function on the website at the moment for you to choose specifically on each item. One day I'd love a website that gives me all those different fancy options, but my website is functional at the moment, so why go and upgrade it? We also do custom orders. While I'm talking about custom orders while I'm cutting these things off. And sorry if I'm going off screen. I've got to have, when I'm cutting, I've got to have it fairly close to me to see what I'm doing. We can also make custom order pieces as well. So if you want a specific word or a, oh, I forgot one, or a phrase, just shoot us an email or message us through Facebook, and we can make just about anything. The only thing I've got to be a little careful of is trademarked items and copyrighted words. The worst answer you'll get back from me is no, I can't do it, which there's no harm in asking. It's just, yeah, some copyright, like Disney, if I would do the word Disney, they sort of get a bit antsy and don't like me. So I'm just going to tuck some of these in here. It's going to be fun to stick down in a minute, Melinda. So I'm just going to put some of these around where I want them. I can even snip, these are a bit big, I can even snip these in half. You can do this with the chipboard as well. Just because you purchased a chipboard in one particular shape doesn't mean you have to use it in that particular shape. All things can be cut and changed around. So I just want some of these coming out. I have to think of a title for this page, won't I? Probably won't finish this in the video because this is going to take me a little time to stick all these bits down, and I will post a video of what this looks like in the Facebook group, sorry, that was last weekend, get this weekend's hat on my Facebook page. So I think that orange has just given it a bit of pop and brought that orange in from the background. So what I'm trying to do when I'm placing these and when I place them on the final layout, because you really don't want to sit here and watch me glue for half an hour because that would be boring. So I will place some of these up onto foam dots just to give them a bit of dimension. But I'm loving this so far. Let me know what you think. Leave me a comment at the end. I miss doing the lives because I can't get feedback, and usually I can ask you for help. Let's stick this one last piece in, and I'm going to go find a chipboard word to put on this. I'm very happy with this. This is really cool. I don't know, some days I get excited about my stuff. I'm terrible. I'm very excited about my new foam release of stamps. I'm excited to play with this stamp a whole lot more. I can see a whole lot of possibilities in my art journal. Just got to find that thing called time. I do have a bunch of orders to actually go and pick from the weekend, so thank you very much everyone that's shopped. So bringing our piece of black card back in, that's going to finish it off quite nicely. So I think I will finish that here. So, oops, sorry, I've been out of frame. So this is one way of using our new foam stamps with our netting stamps and our netting stencil. Wherever I threw that, this desk is covered in stuff. I don't know where I put my netting stencil now. You have no idea. It's around somewhere. It might have flown off the table. Oh well, doesn't matter. Not a big deal. I lose things all the time. So I hope you enjoyed our little play with using our foam stamps in several different ways. So we've used them as a resist. We've used them as a stamp. We've heat embossed with them. We've used the pigment powders as a few different ways as well. So let me know what you think. I will go find a title and I'll post this in the on my Facebook page, hopefully later today. Don't know, I've got to prep for another live at 4 p.m. and go make those 2-minute noodles that are a bit overdue now. At least that will only take me 2 minutes. And I will come back to you. And I do apologise this couldn't be a live, but I will catch up with you again So happy how this layout turned out. Can't wait to stick it all together. Thank you very much for watching and being part of the Great Australian Craft Show number 3.